everyone, I mean everyone is insecure about something. It's human nature. But how can we make peace with that? Today we're chatting with Timea about how our insecurities affect us on the day-to-day and how we try and deal with that. I remember I have such a vivid memory when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I was at Scouts, we had a parade, and there was this guy who just literally ġifuqi in front of everyone who was like, haha, int għandek unibrow. Like, literally, like, ma nafx minn fej ħarġet, like. And I was just there staring at him like, xħana għabat najdlu. And but just għaddit, ma niftakar just waqajta nek qoddim kulħadd. And it's something that, I'm 22 now, so it's like 10 years have passed. But it proper stuck with me. And like, for a while, it was my biggest insecurity, Isra. I wonder if you guys have any like similar experiences, because that one really stuck. Eh?
Nice guy, yeah, he sounds like this guy.
Għallet, u kien ħelu kol, kon nifanzja.
L-għadnu, biex taxxa.
Għetnaj like kisir li qalbi.
Jien kienu jitnejku bija, because I had chubby cheeks growing up. First, some kienu jggustaw, they used to find me cute, they used to grab, oh, cute, yes, And then it's when I started getting older, and everyone started getting these sharp jawlines, and they're still calling me cute, because I have chubby cheeks. They're like, he's cute, but he's hot. And they're calling me the cute one. That diknet t-tikan, it really used to get on my nerves. So I had gotten insecure about the shape of my face, ħanejtek.
Yeah, as if it's a bad thing or anything. Yeah.
I mean,
they compare.
Mux you start comparing yourself to others and ruins everything.
Yeah, no, it's a really shitty way to grow up.
It's crazy how someone can say like one small thing and it sticks for years.
You're never going to let yourself have a unibrow ever again.
Man.
I've been mewing for 20 hours before this podcast. Ma, Tim, you, obviously as probably most people know, like you've been on The X Factor, you're a very talented singer at that.
Thank you.
And much like other people, naturally have your own insecurities.
Yeah, for sure.
Much like us. And I'm wondering how that impacts you when you need to put yourself on a stage with lights on you and thousands of people watching. How do you feel in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I grew up with so many issues that, I think I went from being this innocent child to being programmed to realizing that this is wrong with you and this is not what you're meant to look like. And so when you're on a stage and when you're on a platform that's quite a big one, you automatically go back to your roots. Even if I went from being like this really confident person, you automatically go back to this young little insecure girl, even if you don't want to be.
Yes.
It's like a trigger. So it wasn't an easy thing to do, but I think it's really important to kind of remember that that's your only chance and you only live once, basically, and you really should not spend your entire life just not doing anything because you're insecure about things. There's no point in living life that way.
It takes so much guts, and it's way easier said than done, because
no, for sure.
Whenever I'm feeling insecure, I don't like myself because of this or that, my initial reaction is just to like sort of hide away, and like if I cannot be involved in the shoot, I won't, like just because I'll just be feeling insecure. But if you're on the X Factor example and you just need to perform in front of an audience and like in the spotlight, it takes a lot.
But you feel it. It's like you say, sometimes, even if you're taking a photo and you don't feel as good, even if your friends are telling you look great and whatever, if you don't feel good, you automatically, you're taking that picture and your smile isn't as big as it should be, you know? So it's not easy to go to a photo shoot and, feel yourself kind of. So sometimes you have to remember to kind of force yourself to do the things that you kind of have to do, I guess.
And realistically, everyone has insecurities. I don't know anyone, and I feel like it's impossible to not be insecure about one thing. So I wonder, like, where do these insecurities sort of come from? And do you think they're getting worse by time, sort of like with social media and everything? I'm sure it must be getting worse. It's so easy to compare yourself to other people nowadays.
I mean, comparison is the thief of joy, is the big saying that everyone sticks to. But absolutely. I mean, you can nowadays, like if you look at maybe before in the 70s, 80s, not that I was around to experience that.
And so you're quite old.
I am lucky birthday in February, 27 years young. But you couldn't compare yourself to an average Joe in Australia or America or some influencer, this and that. Maybe an actor, an actress, but those are just different species doing their own thing. But nowadays, just you go on your For You page on TikTok and you just see someone that rocks something better than you, or maybe someone that if your girlfriend says, oh, look how attractive this person is, or how good that looks on that person. Then nowadays you have way more ammunition aimed at you to feel insecure. So I'd say that's one of the root causes. The other root cause is what we spoke about naturally, of something that was brought up to you at a young age that just for some reason really stuck with you. But I'm sure there are other elements that would...
And even sometimes people can mean the best for you but still come off a certain way, in the sense even family sometimes can be a root cause to some insecurities, especially like older people and their ways of thinking. Man, sometimes it's a lot. It's a lot. I don't know if you've had any...
The way older people seem to speak to you, it's like one of those high top basically. The amount of comments I used to get, I remember going to my grandma to church, and then after they'd compare me to my sister a lot because like she was always built differently, I guess. And I would always get the comment that's like, didn't bacha like, can I know what you want me to say to that? And especially when you're so young. And these are things that I still see with little girls now. Well, not just girls, but you see it happening to such young people, and you kind of realize that when it happened to you, that was such a really messed up thing to happen. So I think people really do kind of program your mind into thinking things you shouldn't.
Because it becomes ingrained in you.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially when you're a kid, they say about kids like kelma jgħidu like no matter what, there's no filter in kids. So even like at a young age, obviously everyone's just kind of teasing each other, picking on each other, this and that. But even like nowadays as a grown man, really like my baby cousin comes up to me, points at me and goes, your mustache looks fucking hilarious. Like you look ridiculous with that mustache, shave it off. It's like, you're 6 years old, what are you doing to me right now? Like, you know what I mean?
It's true. My niece and my nephew do that a lot, actually, now that you mentioned it. But with them, it's different. So, like, that's when it's the other way around. I feel like then it's like, whatever, like, they're just children.
Yeah, it's like they haven't seen the world, and then they see you look different to what they're used to. So, to them, it's like, why do you look like this? But it's not in a wrong way. It's just because they haven't seen anyone who kind of looks like that before.
Exactly. But like one thing they don't point out, but because obviously insecurities can be very different. Like whereas, for example, some people might feel insecure about a physical appearance or something of the sort, other people might feel insecure maybe about their education, their intellect, how they are in relationships, so on and so forth. Like me, for one, I didn't go through the normal school ranking where you go to university or you go to MCAST and you graduate over there. But I stopped my education quite early, started working, but I went to ITS, did this and that. But my main group of friends, they all went to university, and they can all have these conversations about things that I don't know squat about. Like, so my insecurity in that sense is always like, am I an intelligent guy? So there are so many different forms of insecurity.
It makes you doubt everything. I get it, man. Like, my friends are the same, and I stopped school when I was 17 and started working full time straight away. So it's not kind of like an easy thing, because you're in that adulting phase, and your friends are all, because I have this assignment and I need to go to uni tomorrow, and it's and it does make you doubt yourself, because what if I could have done that too, kind of,
Exactly.
But you're on a different path in life.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, that's clearly what you should have been doing, and that's what had to happen, kind of,
Exactly.
I feel like sometimes something I have dealt with in the past is also like minar ma trid comparing like friend groups u hekk as well, in the sense li I'll see someone that has this huge group of friends and they always daqqa sip and paint u daqqa jisifru hemm u daqqa this u daqqa that. They always have these amazing plans and I'm like, okay, I just have like 3 really close friends, and like realistically illallo I'm so lucky to have like this group of friends, but istra minar ma trid there's something inside that just always compares and is always like insecure, and it's difficult to control it, man, because when I properly think about it, then I'm like, okay, I'm good, I have this to be thankful for, I have this, and I'm good. But it's still always there, it's still always ingrained in you.
And I think as human beings, naturally, we're never quite satisfied with what we have going for ourselves. If everyone were the same, obviously no one would be interesting. If maybe you didn't stop working if you started working at 17 rather than going to university, who would Timea be nowadays?
Literally.
And then the question boils down to, am I happy with where I am right now? And is there anything I could do about it at the end of the day? So you should kind of empower the different path that you're on, because you're different to the rest. I do this fun exercise where I scroll through my Instagram, and if I go back to 2016, 2017, 2018, I could see myself pretty much looking like everyone else, with the same haircut, with a shaved face, wearing the same clothes and the same outfits as everyone else was doing. He bought that pair of shoes, I'm going to buy that pair of shoes. But then there comes a time, I think, where you start to kind of find your own identity, and you start being proud of how you got where you are, what you're doing, and kind of trusting the journey that you're on. And I wonder if you guys kind of resonate with that at all.
Definitely, I feel like I'm still getting there a bit.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. For example, the thing that you mentioned about looking like other people and dressing like them and, dressing the same. In this day and age, I feel like it's so difficult not to, because a shoe is trending. I like it, I want it, and everyone wants it, and you end up like me. I'm like that. Everything I see on TikTok, I want it. It's like, and then you become it like everyone else. It's true, without wanting to. You own what other people own, but if that's
like
what's
Ilalo, she
popular,
looks really good in this, or
exactly, I want it.
Like Ilalo, she's cool and she has that. I'll do that.
And it's easy with social media. Like you just see it and you know where to buy it from, kind of,
Infatti, like, just like any other person, I feel like I have my phases. I have weeks where I'm like really good, girl boss, like I'm my own person, whatever. And then I have weeks where ma nafx ikun laqatni and I'm just like the most insecure ever. And I always realize when I'm feeling really insecure, what makes me feel better is just literally spending less time on my phone. Just having me time, more self-care, even just like literally putting moisturizer on and like reading a bit. It just helps me so much to sort of ground myself and be with myself and give myself a bit of a reality check. Because, it's crazy how much time I spend on TikTok. I see my screen time, much obvious, but I end up comparing myself to every single person in the planet. It's ridiculous, quasi.
Is that like your routine? Because obviously, like you said, there are days where like you are riddled and overpowered by anxiety, so you can't fully be that character that you're striving to be, so to say. But there are different like mantras, rituals you can kind of have to remind you like, I'm him or I'm her kind of thing. Do you guys have one particularly, you before you do one of our shoots being viewed by thousands of people on social media, and you from a perspective of standing in front of all those people, is there something you like to remind yourself or...
I don't end up reminding myself things. Honestly, normally I get overwhelmed and I cry and I just snap out of it. It's true. Like when I tell
sometimes you just need a good
so
cry.
Much, just let it out. Everything you're feeling, just say bye, kind of, like ciao ciao and get over it straight away. Like you need to get it out of your system.
Tough love.
Yeah,
you give yourself some tough love.
And it's good to be really self-aware, to be honest. I think like when you're so, you get into your head a bit too much, it's good to try and put yourself out of the situation. And what I like doing is treating myself as if I'm talking to my sister or my best friend.
Bravo.
Like, what would you do? Yeah.
Those affirmations you typically give a friend,
exactly.
But you wouldn't listen to the advice
Sometimes you
yourself.
forget to be kind to yourself. And you need to remember that you should love yourself as much as you give the love to other people. You need it as well.
Now, you have any? You said you put moisturizer on, and
but it's different because now you got me thinking, like, because when it comes to a shoot, you shahaja, that's very different because that's more like similar to sort of performance anxiety. Like when it comes to that, when I'm feeling insecure before a shoot or whatever, I just try to get my mind off it, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but what I do is I just distract myself, I like chill, I do things I love, I surround myself with people that I really love, and then it's fine. Like I just go with it, I'm myself, go at it. But then when I'm like by myself and I'm still feeling quite shitty, then that's different. That's when I'd have like my own routine with like getting off my phone, like spending time with my boyfriend, sometimes just spending time alone, sometimes asil chicha man kun irrit man, sometimes I'll just want to be alone, like with a book or like watching a nice series and just like some proper me time. And even if I'm just cleaning my room, it just helps me sort of unwind this, because sometimes I realize that a lot of these insecurities and everything stem, as in for me personally at least, they stem from a place because if I'm constantly on my phone, I'm constantly seeing what other people are doing, I'm not even thinking of what I'm doing. I'm just focused on what others are doing. So obviously I'm thinking of I should be doing that, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. I'm not even realizing what I'm doing. I'm not even realizing what steps I'm taking and what achievements I'm doing. So I'd need that time alone to proper like ground myself. So that's what I mean by they're different.
Because it's being in the zone naturally. So like if obviously I'm nervous before the podcast, am I going to say something? Am I going to look a certain way or whatever? That's where you kind of have to get in the zone and you kind of just try to do whatever it takes to get your confidence up and to rid yourself of any anxiety kind of whatsoever.
With that, with like preparing for a podcast work, listening to a good song helps us.
Yeah, I think we all have that one song that automatically
What's
just puts
yours?
you. See, it depends. So like right now, I'm obsessed with Tate McRae and Olivia Rodrigo. So anything from them, I'm automatically in a good mood.
Oh God, I can leave because this is just going to be an Olivia Rodrigo conversation over
yes, anytime. I am obsessed.
Mine is always like, if I properly have to like feel good, mine's always Man-Eater.
Okay.
Always like.
That's
always.
what you are.
Like fantasy, Mariah Carey is quite a good one too.
Zombies by the Cranberries. I fucking enter a war zone when I listen to You Should See Me in the car.
You just end up dancing.
Dak it-tip insir maħnuq like diħel ix-xogħol, like I have a big meeting or something. Zombies. That gets me in the zone, like. But then, like, when I'm alone and I'm like kind of feeling shitty about myself, one thing that my therapist had kind of taught me to do, and I think it's a nice thing to share. Have you guys ever heard about grounding yourself? Even if like you're on a nice walk or you're just out at a bar or something, and for some reason you're just in your own head, like literally in your own head, you're not present. And you're just like dak it-tipikal mek xaħat and you have no idea what's going on because you're having an entirely different conversation in your mind. But grounding yourself. And it's the simplest thing you can do. So it's like, for example, if I start rubbing the material of the sofa, for example, or I start feeling the pattern
just
I have
actually
in my
focusing
pants.
on the present moment.
Exactly.
Not what's happening in the future, not what happened in the past, literally anything that's happening in the present.
Another cool one is like looking around the room and you go through the alphabet and you start trying to say objects that you find in the room that start with the letter A. You find one, then you move to the letter B.
That's great for when you're feeling anxious.
So you just kind of place yourself in the moment and you forget that there's all of that brain work going on at the time. So if you're ever feeling that before stage, insomma, sa paktar to panic, you're like, I'm on stage right now.
To be fair, I'll be focused on lyrics, but if I'm ever at a club and I don't feel like dancing, this is what I'm going to be doing.
Nice.
Nice. Picture, like everyone's dancing and I just want to sit down and do nothing. I think, at least personally, I'm at the age right now where half my friends are adulting and half my friends are still clubbing.
It's such a weird phase, man. Such a weird phase.
Like one of my friends is getting married quite literally. And then my other friend, he doesn't stop partying.
Even you scroll on Facebook, half of them are pregnant, engaged, getting married. And the rest are just still, kind of living their own life and figuring things out and going out every weekend.
And both are completely fine.
Yeah,
it's just
100%.
That's why you need to ground yourself.
But that fucks you up as well.
Yeah, you start comparing more.
I was like, do I have my stuff together? Am I taking the right route right now? And you start putting the panic button on and you start doing things that you don't believe in. Hey, let me find the one now. You know what I mean? Like you could snap your fingers, go out and get married.
No. So when you were on X Factor, because I can imagine it must have been like so overwhelming, especially at the beginning when like only your closest friends will know about you. You're being posted on this huge platform for everyone to watch. Or like, did you have any struggles going through it? Like, uncle, with people's first impression, people can be quite brutal sometimes, man.
Like, you have no idea the comments I used to get. But it's also different because now I'm older, and I feel like as years go by, I grow mentally so much. So even looking back, I would have handled things quite differently as well. But the amount of comments I used to get, the worst one that I will never forget. The day after I performed on Sixth Chair, this guy just came up to me, and I had worn, so I had like jeans that were, patchwork kind of. And I just had a top basically on. And he said I looked like a cow. I've never spoken to this guy before. Ever. And he was like, dak il-jeans, kont esek baqra li. I'm like,
the audacity.
Okay, tibux tridni ngħidlek.
And what did you do? Like, how did you sort of
I told him, you have your opinions, I have my own. His friend was embarrassed for him, and that says a lot.
Very raġun. It must have been a lot, because I can imagine like being on such a platform.
Yeah, it was a lot, because I used to get it. You're in a competition. You're already doubting yourself because you're comparing yourself to other passionate, talented singers. Minar ma trid, you get these comments and you get even more in your head about it. I mean, you're quite in the spotlight. I'm sure you get this a lot. And people seem to challenge everything you do. Or you'd be doing well, and they seem to find any
no matter
little problem.
Like what you do, if you're doing well, if you're not, or whatever, people will find something negative to say, man.
I think horrible. That, like, when someone tells you something like that, they are clearly trying to make themselves feel better about maybe something they're insecure about. So if I bring this up and make this person feel like shit, it's gonna give me this this ego boost that I'm no longer I'm no longer feeling insecure because I made someone else feel like shit. I think that definitely says more about the person.
100%, but not everyone's in the mindset that they're able to say that reflects your character and that does not reflect what I look like or what you're trying to insult me about. Some people might take that in a really, really hard way. So you could have said this to someone that would not have reacted the same way. So it's something people seem to forget to think before they speak.
Definitely.
And I think there's like a difference between having insecurities and then having like self-awareness. So if someone were to tell you like a disgusting comment like that and you were insecure about that thing, then naturally that's going to make you feel like shit. But if you're self-aware about it, that would kind of allow you to kind of accept the comment and just, I don't care about it and move on. And I think that's a tough distinction to make, because you could easily let like a thought about yourself get to your head and you just sleep on it and allow it to rot in your mind. But actually kind of accepting yourself as you are and empowering yourself as you are, it's a difficult thing to do, and I respect people that can do that.
100%,
tremendously,
it's so
man.
difficult, man.
To take on such comments, you need to be so sure of yourself to know that you shouldn't believe what this person is saying.
And it's so difficult, especially like in a situation like that where you're already doing so much, like with X Factor, so much pressure that's already there.
Yeah.
But like people just adding on.
And normally it's on a screen, they're saying these things on social media, but this person said it in real life. Like, the audacity to stop me and say, hey, I liked your singing in that outfit.
Shut up.
Like, what do you want me to wear? As Nusorut.
And like, what reaction was he expecting? Like,
nothing. And I love fashion so much. So for me, at least I was lucky enough to know that he's shitting on my outfit, but I did not like his outfit. So
nice. What was he wearing?
You do you. If you want to wear, he had like this plain black t-shirt with black jeans, very Għasjek tħallasni mu mal-besek, you need to be in that mindset that you know who to take criticism from. Like, if I'm not going to ask you for advice, I'm not going to take your opinions, you know?
Exactly.
But not everyone's like that, and it takes a lot to get to that point.
Yes, it takes a lot of growth.
What's important right now? The importance of you being on stage in a competition is to sound your best and to get past this round. So, sure, you could bring up something totally irrelevant to me right now. You could bring up your opinion about something that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things as much as you want. What difference is going to make? I sounded good. You liked my song. Brilliant.
There's always going to be something that people pick on. If it wasn't what I was wearing or how I looked, it was the song choices, for example. And people get you because you spend such a long time debating what song to choose. And then even before you go on stage, you're like, they're not going to like the song. And then, you know, when Madrid, they make such an amazing experience feel horrible for you. And it's not even, you know, just with this. I feel like everyone experiences this. And there are so many people who don't show just how insecure they are. Like, you automatically think that they're the most confident people. But I feel like the most confident people are some of the most insecure people. And that's kind of important to keep in mind as well.
It's difficult to even speak about it. This morning, me and Matt were having, like, while planning this episode, we were speaking about this. And I was telling him sort of how whenever I have an insecurity, I don't like speaking about it. To me, even like this episode in itself is like I'm putting myself out of my comfort zone because I don't like it. Anka, even with my own boyfriend, as in like because my mentality is, again, it might not be a great mentality, but my mentality is like if I'm insecure about my eyebrows and I tell someone, Isma, I'm insecure about my eyebrows, now they're looking at my eyebrows. You know, so it's difficult to speak about
basically.
It's difficult to overcome that. But then when you actually do, if you're surrounded by good people, when you actually do it, that's where the growth comes. It's just the first step is obviously a bit difficult, but that's where the growth comes, and it's a process.
And it's empowering as well. Like the second you kind of, the way I feel when I point out an insecurity I have about myself, for example, is once I talk about it, then I am accepting it. So no matter, because it becomes real, no? When you say it. So if I don't like the way my hair looks one day, I walk into the office, bad hair day, watch out guys. And like that, if anyone uses it as fire, it's like, okay, I said it first, like, so it's not really gonna bother me. You know?
Fair enough.
That's a really, really big thing. When you out yourself, you realize that you are kind of embracing the insecurities.
That's so good.
And then there's one thing I really like, and I learned this from a cartoon growing up that was called Lil Bill. It was a Bill Cosby thing growing up. And it was, he used to say, I can't remember if it was yes and or so. So if someone tells him something like, for example, you look terrible today, or what you said was dumb, it's like yes and. It's like how is that relevant? Or so you're instantly kind of discarding what they're saying, or yes and what is the relevancy in where we are right now? We're in class, do I need to look my 100%?
It's the fact that you like learned that from such a young age, like from a cartoon, really gets me thinking sort of, do you remember like when you first started feeling insecure? Because it's something I literally I can't remember, because I feel like it's so ingrained in us to start sort of picking at ourselves. It's so sad. Like, you remember, you have experiences when
I
you were
have
younger.
so many experiences. I grew up being way too bullied for me to just mention like just one thing, but they really stick with you. And when you see the people that you remember saying such comments to you, you don't forget anything that was ever mentioned. And you get all kind of these flashbacks of, you don't remember everything, but you remember those specific moments. Like, I could tell you a big chunk of my childhood is blocked, and I don't remember a single thing other than those comments that people said and who said them. And I will see them now, and I will just look at them, and it gets you back to you being that little insecure girl, and you were only insecure because of these people who were probably just insecure and angry at themselves, and they just put on you, basically.
What about you, Matt?
I think it was kind of like we were 14, 15, and I went to a mixed school. I went to St. Martin's. So like the popular kids were making out with girls and they had their girlfriends and this and that. And because either you would like someone, like you would like a girl, and just someone who's so good looking ends up getting them, and it makes you feel like you don't stand a chance at that stage. And growing up, like I remember everyone was like this jock at school, but not everyone, but a lot of people, at least who I was competing with, there were these jocks, and I remember I had a fair bit of acne growing up. I was quite unhealthy as well. So in that period, I began kind of comparing myself to other people. I need to look like him if I want to get girls. I need to act like him. I need to kind of walk straight and put on a persona and be someone I'm not.
Even in the movies, that's what you see.
Exactly. And I remember I used to walk around at school looking at people saying, okay, his hair, his eyes, his body, and just applying them to myself
like
and saying,
yourself.
like I'm building my character on GTA kind of thing, saying, I'd be so happy if I looked like that.
And realistically, if you looked like that, you'd still find something to pick on.
Always.
Yeah.
Always, man.
I see so many TikToks of people who, they, I don't know, either get plastic surgery or they change their lifestyle and start gym or, anything that they were insecure about, they fix it. And then they make these videos of, in society's eyes, I look so much better now, but I'm not happy whatsoever. I was happier before. And it's so sad that you think that you need to change yourself completely. And then you're still not happy.
Always. It's like, niftakar meta irranġajt snini. I remember when I had lost weight, it was always a next thing I had to do in order for me to be happy with the way I looked.
Finished.
But it's never going to happen. You're never going to be 100%. So, and then that's where confidence comes in. You need to be secure in the way you look as a person, the way you are. It's not all about the way you look. It's how do I feel today? Like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling secure about myself? Am I on top of my game today? And it's
mindset as well. Ashanka, as before we were saying how like some people feel empowered by like insulting other people, and to me that's bullshit, because I feel more empowered when I compliment someone and I make their day.
Absolutely.
That just feels so good and makes you feel so much better about yourself, and then you're also making someone else feel better. That's actually feeling empowered, not insulting someone.
For sure. One thing I really believe in is if you make a person smile, that person's going to remember you for making them smile. So when they think of you, they're going to get happy, or they're going to associate you with a happy feeling. So even sometimes if I'm just having a shit day and I want to make myself feel better and I bump into someone I haven't seen in a while, looking good, man. And that kind of, because I got something positive out, I start feeling better about myself. But there's the debate of, is there such thing as an unselfish compliment or an unselfish good deed? Because it always makes you feel good, eh?
Yeah, it feels good to make someone happy. But then, why not do it? If you're doing something nice, and I think if you're self-aware also, it should be something you're happy about. You're making another person's day, sure, why not? But obviously, and then don't just do it for, feeling good.
You're just going out and calling everyone beautiful.
So before you mentioned how when you were younger, you've dealt with a lot of like bullying work. How did that feel, especially at such a young age? How did you deal with that? And
you don't know how to deal with it at a young age. I mean, I remember being bullied from the age of 7, 8 till I was 17, when I really said, daqshekk, I'm not going to let anyone treat me like this anymore. And you go from, looking back, I noticed it, because back then I didn't realize the things I used to do that weren't as such normal. For example, I was always chubbier, always. I was always built like bigger, And I always remember when I go to the beach, I'm gonna stay with a towel around me all the time. Like, there's no way that I would let myself, have anyone see me that way without a towel. Or I would always dress baggier so no rolls are showing. But imagine being 8 years old and thinking of these things. That is such a messed up thing. And no, growing up, I always was on defense mode. So anything anyone told me, I was always a bitch back, basically, because you automatically think that people want to, like, they're out there
they're
to
out
get
to get you.
And then I think
You're
when I
ready
was
to sort
around,
of protect yourself and just like
Exactly.
defend yourself
and
rather than.
these are things I learned through therapy. Like, you have to kind of put yourself out of the situation and realize that these things are not normal, although so many people go through it, and it's so sad that you could be 10 and you could be 50, and people will always have something to say to hurt your feelings. But I think I grew up very much, I changed schools and I was still bullied. I went to the beach, I was still bullied. Even within family, without kind of my family wanting to, they still said things to bully me. And it's hard for them to wrap their head around it, because I bring it up even nowadays that you hurt
Sometimes
me with the
they
things
just
you
don't
say.
get it. It's wrong.
No, for them it's because I'm looking out for you, but no, you're not. You're hurting me.
There's a way and a way.
Yeah, and I think when I was around 17, and then I automatically became kind of, anything you're gonna tell me, I'm gonna make things way worse for you, because I don't want you to hurt me. So if you try to attack me, I'm just gonna attack back. And it took a lot of growth to go from, always in defense mode to, okay, now I realize that the things that you are saying aren't because I look a certain way or I sound a certain way, or anything you're trying to attack me with. I can now realize that it's on you and not on me. And if someone is kind of mature enough, they can see that it's not something to laugh about. As that's it. It's not only the person who's making fun of you. It's the friends that are laughing at it. And
people that are meant to be your best friends all of a sudden are laughing at someone else's joke.
It's a society thing. When I'm a treat, and then they go for, the majority. And Sheena cool is such a nitaqbik. So, and it took a lot to get out of that.
It does, I can
imagine. And it's sad to see people go through it and the things they put themselves through.
And that's what I was going to say before. You mentioned how, like, it's not normal, and it's true. It's not normal that, like, a 7 or an 8-year-old is so, like, focused on how they look at the beach and this and whatever. It's true. A 7-year-old shouldn't be thinking of that, but at the same time, it is so normal because so many children are going through this. So it's like... It's so ironic, and what do you do? What can you do to sort of fix this? Because clearly it's happening and it keeps happening.
It doesn't change. Be it teachers or your family or, kids and your friends. There's always going to be someone around you who's going to make you feel like proper shit, basically. But it unfortunately is something that, as horrible as it is to go through it, it does make you much stronger as a person. I'm not saying people should go through it,
but
at
I
least
get what you mean.
taking the good side of things and realizing that you've become such a strong person. Even just enough, if I see you go through it, I know how to help you.
It's using
nice.
it for good.
For sure.
Yes, it's a very shitty situation, but at least let's get something good out of it. Now I feel empowered. Now I can help other people.
But there's always things that trigger, I think, enough. For me now, I think something that I'm still really going through is I will never leave the house if I feel like I look bad. I won't. I want to dress up. I want to make sure my hair is good, my outfit, my things are matching. I would not leave the house unless I feel good about myself. مش هنخرج لك sweatpants وما يقبلش مع التوب. And it's only for the simple reason that I know when I was younger, it's something I was very insecure about. So now there's no way I will let myself do it. And then you think about it and you're like, this is not something that you should be. It's a sad reality.
It's crazy how much those little things would affect you throughout your whole life, even though you are still like 7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, mind you, there's people who I remember used to make fun of me, who've apologized now or used to vote for me. Like, you get the satisfaction, you know what I mean? But it's still really sad to think about it, and especially knowing how many people...
was done.
Exactly. So,
like, at least, sorry to stop you, but at least they like if some of them said sorry, at least they did, because fl-istessin that also takes a lot of guts, and I feel
No,
like
for sure.
that's
For sure.
good from their end at least saying I do it, but
It's
then at the
something.
end of the day, damage was still done.
That's the terrible thing, because maybe as a kid, I used to kind of tease a couple of people here and there myself. And what kind of hurts me about being that person growing up, that was always in an innocent way, but still, you know what you're doing. Kind of, you grow from doing that, and you think that what you're doing at the time is harmless. But now looking back at it, I can't go back and take back the long-term effects that my words have or have had on other people. And nowadays, like when I bump into people that I haven't seen for 10 plus years, that maybe I was a bit bit of a bully too, maybe in the past, I just think to myself, I hope you don't see me as that kid that bullied you, that teased you or made you feel different. So just as maybe someone that was on the other end of that, understand that the second-hand embarrassment that these people that made you feel different it's massive. We grow up, and then like when we're older, embarrassed and feeling like shit. Not to say that obviously limsik and aħna, but I think that brings you some comfort.
At least there's some sort of growth.
Exactly.
And do you remember like anything specific that ever happened? So let's say enough, you know that at a point you weren't that great to me, and then you see me after so long. Would you look at me and say, I remember that one time that I said this to them? Would you be like specific? Would you get those flashbacks?
So get those flashbacks, yes, absolutely. Okay. Like I remember if I'd be playing football, we used to play football in tennis courts, and on the other side of the tennis courts, there were these other kids playing, and it was like a war of West versus East in the tennis courts. So I used to kick a ball at a kid who had glasses on to try and knock the glasses off of his face. I used to shoot the guy that came to school with a new ball, and maybe sometimes I tried to shoot it over. And I wouldn't, to answer your question, I wouldn't address it up front, because, silly me, I would just think like, we were kids and we all get over that. But probably if we're hanging out the same way we're hanging out now, and I had been mean to you in the past, at some point I'm going to need to get it off my chest and just say, sorry, I was a piece of shit to you. Like,
but that's your emotional growth. Like that's very rare for people to experience, I think. And then vice versa. If I know that you were an ass to me, I would feel horrible being around you, because I would not be listening to anything you're saying. I'm just kind of going back to things you used to say to me.
Yeah.
So, but at least it's good that you're at a point in your life that you could, address those things. And
everyone just wants to. Everyone's idolizing like the capo of the group who has maybe bullied someone. So it's like, so it's that behavior that makes you cool. It's that behavior that will move you forward. You see how insecure I was to do stuff like that, so people will view me higher, try to make someone else feel like
that's
shit.
That's what makes you do the actions, because you don't want to be that kid that people are making fun of.
There you go.
At the end of the day, we were all still just kids, and kids are so easily influenced. So if you see a certain type of behavior from your friends, you're going to copy it. If you see a certain type of behavior from your parents or your family or whoever, you just copy what you see. And if that person seems cool and he's doing that, well, I'll do that. You don't think about it when you're 7 or 8 years old. You don't think about the repercussions, and it's crazy to me that like you would have been that in the past, because now genuinely like you're one of the nicest people I know and one of the kindest people I know, and I say that like I genuinely mean it. It's crazy like how people change so much and so much growth can happen. It doesn't always happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you just assume that like because you can't relate with like a sub, sure, people have picked on me, and stuff like that, and you just think everyone grows and everyone gets over it, and more femu tifel ta' 13 sena, tifel ta' 12 sena, isma, what you're saying or doing to that other kid is gonna last them an entire lifetime. This is why there's the importance of having good parents, to
Yes.
teach you values and to teach you things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and that's the thing with parents, because I remember when I was picked on by kids, their parents, they're not doing anything wrong, they're still figuring out
That's
life.
where the problem stems from, but that's
Yeah.
how it keeps on happening.
They're the ones being empowered, the ones that are
Literally.
picking on you. Like,
Literally.
it's okay, he's a kid, he can get away with anything. Like,
You're
what's that
doing
gonna
something
do
wrong,
to
do
them?
it again, don't worry.
Azat, they'll forgive you in the future.
I was the first girl, and my brothers, at least as far as I know, were never guys that were picked on whatsoever. And when you're a boy, I think it's a bit different, in a sense that if you're being picked on, it's less like. It's just like you're the odd one out and people are always attacking you, and more that they compare you in the friend group that you are, kind of like they make you feel less than, at least from what I see and experience. That's how it was in the schools that I've been to.
I feel like it can be both, it's true, but I
Yeah.
get your point.
Yeah. And I being the first girl and the first person who was severely bullied. I mean, I remember I used to go home screaming, I don't want to go to school. I used to cry to my mom every day. And as a parent, I can't imagine what it's like to see your kid, experiencing that. You wouldn't know how to handle it if it's your
Sure.
first time. So my mom's automatic response was, let me speak to the parents, because we were a friend group and all the moms used to hang out together and so automatically ħammur nkellima ħanara x'inhu jiġri, and the kids just make it worse because x'mur tgħid il-mami like
It's like fuels the fire.
Exactly. But as a kid, you don't know what to do. I mean, you're being picked on all the time. Who are you meant to go to? And also, who am I meant to tell that I don't want to go to school?
And realistically, your mom would have had good intentions speaking to the parents.
100% too.
But then it also depends on the other parents and what their reaction is and what they do to try
And
and
at the
fix
end of the day, kids will just be kids. Parents don't come hold their hand at school. Like they're still going to do whatever they want to do. So they can speak to them and say, hey, be nice. Ma. It's just going to stop at that.
You need to show it rather than just say it.
I mean, they did used to listen a lot. To be fair, I have to be very grateful for the parents that I have. But it's something that as much as they try, they can never understand fully. And the approach that they took was very much, there's a problem. They are not the problem, but you are, because they are picking on you. So something is wrong with you. We need to fix you. It wasn't like clearly they are the issue. It's you are the issue because you're the one being picked on. And that's where you program your brain into, blaming yourself for everything. And why am I not included in friend groups? And why are they not inviting me out? And I remember I used to get so much of, my mom's only letting me invite 4 people. I already have the 4 people.
I remember.
I used to get a lot of that. So automatically you feel like the loser in the entire school. But as a parent, it's really difficult to know how to deal with it. I mean, you have people telling your child that something's wrong with them all the time, basically. How I wouldn't even know how to do
realistically,
that.
for parents, it's their first time being a parent as well. So it's,
Exactly.
it's a lot to go
That's
through.
something I'm really trying to keep in mind lately. Just your parents are living life for the first time. And
Just
we
like
seem
us.
to forget that sometimes.
Is there anything you wish you did differently?
I think when you're a kid, you're still growing up, you don't understand life. And I've always been the kind of person that if you don't like me, why don't you like me? I need to figure it out. I need to make you like me. And I wish I actually knew that I could have just been grateful for the friends that I did have, the people who did have my back, and knew where to draw the line with people who made it quite obvious that we weren't good friends. I remember I used to be friends with people, for example, who would only text me, meet me in private, and then at school would not say a single thing to me. Like, embarrassed to be around me. Why? Because, and then when you're speaking to me, you're like, I love you so much, you're my best friend. Like, and then at school, you wouldn't say a word to me. So it makes you just mind blown. But it's hard to know your worth when you're still figuring out life. Like now, I'm not going to let anyone do that to me. But back then, like,
you're still learning, you're still going through it.
Yeah.
Have these experiences like empowered you in any way nowadays? When you look back at them, do they just bring back like trauma, or do you look at them and say, like you get empowered by certain of them.
I mean, the trauma's there. I don't think it ever goes, to be honest. But it's how you take the trauma and how you deal with things now. How I get a comment now and how I'm going to deal with that, and how I help my friends deal with it. Because at the end of the day, these are not just things you deal with when you're a kid. These are things I feel like
it's their lifelong.
they're never ending. So it's good to know how to take a bad situation and make the best out of it. But again, that's a lot of self-growth. And I'm still working on it. Like, people look at me and they seem to think that I'm really confident and I'm really mature about things. You know how much I cry at home for things that I just
Doesn't mean you're not confident at them.
It doesn't mean you're not confident, but I think people forget that everyone has their moments where I'm not going to leave my room.
Man. Like,
exactly.
Everyone has their ups and downs. Everyone feels insecure about things. Everyone feels sad sometimes, but also everyone feels confident at times. It's literally just being human. Like, everyone just needs to be a bit more mindful and like shut up a bit. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, just shut up.
Exactly. And with guys, I don't know how it is, but you're gonna get me hormones. Just I could be okay 1 second, and then within 5 minutes I'm crying. Within the next I'm feeding myself taking pictures.
So it's just like تكلمنيش.
Like, I just want to be in my room. I want to do my skincare. I want to watch rom-coms of the 90s. Kind of like, just don't speak to me. But it's a roller coaster.
And before you mentioned sort of having the worst situation ever and turning it good, how do you do that now? I know it's still obviously a process and there isn't a like solid way on how to do it, but in the present moment, if something had to happen to you or if someone had to tell you something a bit nasty, how would you deal with it?
I think the one thing I always tell people, and it's the best advice I could ever give, is remembering that you do have one life and it goes by way quicker than you think that it does. And also, I want to grow up and tell my kids how cool I was and how many stories I have and how much I lived my life, you know. I don't want to tell my kids that their mom was this shy, insecure person who never did anything because she was too scared, you know. I want good stories. And it keeps me going, you know, like just thinking about doing that.
And even if it's not for other people, even if it's not for your children, for yourself, man, when I look back at like moments in my life where I was feeling really insecure, I just get so sad about the fact that I was so insecure. I'm like, yeah, Hastra, I was just like 13. I had so many things I could have been grateful for, but instead I was focused on this one thing that was making me feel insecure.
That probably now won't even matter.
Exact. And at the time, obviously, it's normal, but it's do it for yourself a bit so that then later you don't have that regret quasi.
Yeah. Just remember to keep...
What about you, man?
Just what I want to say is just keep these things in mind, like how irrelevant was it when you were 13. One day you'll be 35 thinking how irrelevant they were when you were 25, 22. Really. So if you could take that away from your experience and just remind yourself as much as you can, it's insignificant. Feeling insecure is never good. It never brings about anything. It's not real. It's not tangible. So if you just keep that in mind, when I'm 35, this isn't going to matter how I felt now. It's what I do and how I set myself up for the future.
Yeah, and sometimes I think you look back and, for example, you see a photo of a day you remember you weren't feeling good, but you don't remember why or what happened to you or why you were sad. And then
you look back and you're like, this guy actually looked okay.
Exactly. Like, why was I so sad about things that day? I could have just enjoyed myself.
And it's such a weird feeling. I hate that feeling. Yeah. And something that I also like, something you told me, is that like, no one's good at everything, so stop comparing yourself to like every single person, because
something you can do I can't, and vice versa.
Exact. And Matt told me that.
There you go.
Yeah, you seem to have good self-awareness and self-growth.
It's a lot of podcasts.
That's because he's old, starting as wisdom.
It's because I'm old. It's life experience. So.